Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? It's early April 2017, and at this point in time, it's pretty clear that the Nintendo Switch is a success. But the real question left on my mind now is, well, why? I'm going to be honest, I'm pleasantly surprised with the way things have gone with Switch so far. I've always been optimistic about it ever since we really started getting details about the console and how it would really be this kind of major change in how Nintendo would deliver games to people, the way the gameplay would work. But in the back of my mind, I was always a little bit apprehensive about whether it would actually happen, whether Nintendo would be able to even pull it off. And I had this nagging suspicion that, maybe it would, have this initial quick burst of sales and then just kind of level off. And Nintendo would try to kind of justify it by saying, oh, well, we can't meet demand, whatever, and that's why they're not selling very well, that sort of thing. But it turns out that's not really the case. I've talked to a lot of people who have owned the Switch. I've talked to people who work at stores who sell Switch. And it's been a fairly consistent consensus about how things have gone for that console so far. And that is, it's in high demand, and the vast majority of people who like it really like it. I mean, it's not as simple as they buy it and they're kind of like, oh, well, it's all right. I guess I like it. It's generally a big amount of enthusiasm is what I've been seeing for the console. And I think a lot of people have been pleasantly surprised at how well it works as well. So it's been selling really, really good. I mean, the initial batch during launch and the pre-orders and all of that sold out pretty much right away. But it wasn't nearly as quick as something like the NES Classic. They stuck around in stores for a little while. What I mean by that is, instead of people in line at the store before the store opens getting them and then that's it, it seemed like if you were at the store within the first few hours of the console being available for sale, you had a pretty good chance of getting one, regardless of whether you had a pre-order or not. That's clear that Nintendo is taking this seriously. And what makes it even more clear that Nintendo is taking this seriously is the frequency of restocks. It seems like stores have gotten more consoles every week or two on a pretty consistent basis. Now, of course, also very consistently, they've been selling them and selling them very quickly. I've heard reports that generally it's just within hours of consoles getting restocked at all the major retailers here in the US that sell Switch. And they continue to expect frequent restocks. Even Nintendo has said the initial plans were to make 8 million units in 2017, and they've had to double that. They're going to now try to build 16 million units this year. And I think the momentum is going to continue as we go throughout the year, especially as we get closer to the holiday shopping season, simply because of the way games have been released on this console. It is a very interesting situation in terms of the game lineup at launch. It's very thin. The big game that launched alongside Switch was Zelda Breath of the Wild. There were some smaller ones. 1-2 Switch, I think, honestly, is overpriced for what it is. To be really honest with you, I think that should have been a pack-in title. But the other games have all been in that kind of $20 indie game type of realm. Fast RMX has done really well. Well, it's, one of only a few kind of more in-depth type of games that aren't like all real, mini games, like Snipper Clips or 1-2 Switch. But Breath of the Wild has absolutely cemented Switch's status, I think. And that game is one of what I think are 3 reasons why Switch has done really well. I'm going to discount the whole concept of it's doing well because it's a new Nintendo console. There's going to be a certain percentage of fans of any company that will run out and buy something when that company releases a new thing, right? We've seen it across all different markets. Apple is probably the biggest one of them. You know, there are a certain number of people who are just so diehard in Apple that as soon as Apple announces a new product, they're going to go buy one, whether they really need it or not, whether the reviews say it's good or not, they're going to go get it. I'm not going to count them, you know, those sorts of people towards, you know, why I think Switch has done well, because they just would have bought the console anyway, right? They're the same kind of people that would have gone out and bought the Wii U early on, despite the fact that, you know, the Wii U didn't really get reviewed all that well. It didn't have a very clear focus to it. I don't want to call the Wii U a disaster, but it didn't sell very well, and it didn't resonate with people. But one thing that has really resonated with people is Breath of the Wild. And this is a classic example of what they call a system seller. In fact, I've read reports that what they call attach rate, which is basically when you buy a console, what are the accessories and games that you get along with it? Zelda has an almost 100% attach rate to Switch sales. That's incredible. And that's even more incredible considering it's not a pack-in title. Because attach rates can, if you fudge the numbers, you know, pack-in titles can count towards attach rates. You can't help it. It's in the box with the console, but they get to count it as a sale. Considering that there are no games in the box with Switch that people will then spend an additional $60 to get a copy of Breath of the Wild, really tells you that it's a solid title. And it's reviewed very, very well. I've heard and talked to a lot of people who absolutely love that game. And I'll be honest, I've never been that big into Zelda games. I totally appreciate them for what they are, because I know they've got like this legacy and history behind them, just like the Final Fantasy series. Probably even more so than the Final Fantasy series, dare I say that, because I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, but Breath of the Wild really lives up to it. And not only does it live up to it, it exceeds, I think, in one way or another, what that franchise has been able to do before. And so, you know, by virtue of it being the big title for Switch, people are going to be like, well, screw it, I want to play Zelda. I might as well go get a Switch to play it on, because that's really kind of the console it was designed for. Quick little note, Breath of the Wild came out for Wii U. I have not seen a single copy of Breath of the Wild for Wii U in a store anywhere. I'm kind of tempted to go buy a copy of that, if for no other reason than just like for collecting purposes. To say, you know, 20 years from now, oh, hey, I've got that one weird kind of rare game. You know, it was meant for the Switch, but they also kind of came out with it as a Wii U title and nobody bought it. I'm tempted to pick that up, but anyway. So Breath of the Wild, just a killer title. I've been enjoying it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not that big into Zelda, but this is a game it's really been drawing me in. So that's one reason why I think Switch has done really well. The other one, or another one, is, and this is something that kind of came to me as a thought the other day, and I haven't dug too deep into it. I'm not 100% certain this is really the case or not, but I'm going to throw it out there because this is, you know, meant for discussion, and I want to hear your thoughts on it too. In some ways, I wonder if Switch isn't selling well because the Wii U didn't. I'm wondering if the people that simply held off on Wii U and ended up never buying one are now feeling, you know what, it's been a generation, it's been a few years, I want a new video game console, I skipped the Wii U, let's just give this Switch thing a try. That's kind of what I'm kind of wondering, because you have to remember the majority of game console and game software sales are to ordinary people. They're not to hardcore gamers. Ordinary people are into gaming now. I know, even for me, it's kind of a crazy thought, because I grew up in an era where only nerds and children, and especially nerdy children, played video games. And grown adults and the sporty jock kind of kids and all that, they never played video games. Everybody plays video games now. And so, I think when those kind of people who may not want to invest a ton of money or time in video game consoles, so they're going to read the reviews and they're going to hear about what other people are buying because they just want to get the best deal for their money. If they hear something like, well, the Wii U sucks, or it's weird, or they don't understand how it works and you should skip it, they're going to do that. I just can't help but wonder if maybe because the reviews on Switch have been favorable, and those people have maybe wanted to get a new Nintendo console. Maybe they don't understand or don't really get into the types of games that, say, the Xbox or PlayStation series offer. Maybe they just stick with Nintendo because that's a name they've heard of. I just can't help but wonder if maybe that isn't a portion of Switch sales. The question then is, what's that portion? That's something I don't know. Nintendo may know that because I'm sure they do all sorts of market research and demographics and all that. But that's just an idea that I had the other day that I thought may make some sense. People skipping Wii U and they want to go buy something new anyway, and well, Switch might as well, right? The last one, or one of the last ones, the last major one, I should say, I think is perhaps the biggest one, and that is the whole concept works. It was a very mixed reaction at first. I felt like, at least when we found out about what Switch's form factor would be and how it would work and all of that. I got kind of a real mixed feeling about people kind of getting it, where you can have this console docked and play it on your TV with, a standalone controller and all that, but then pick it up and take it on the go, and it's a portable. I got a lot of mixed reaction, it felt like, from that, where some people are like, no, we just want a real beefy, powerful home console. Nintendo, come on, you've got to, go after Sony and Microsoft, that kind of a thing. But other people are like, yeah, we could do it. The 3DS is getting kind of old, and maybe we try something like that. But it seemed like in the run-up to the Switch launch, a lot of that opinion started to change, or at least the people saying they didn't think it would work started getting quieter and quieter. Whether they just stopped talking about it or whether they legitimately changed their minds, I don't know. I kind of think it was that they changed their minds, but the whole idea of this, kind of convertible console that works both ways really seems to be resonating with people. It makes sense. Maybe because they actually needed to see it in use in real life. You can only glean so much from a product presentation or demo. Companies are trying to tell us all the time how we should use their products. They're contriving all of these scenarios about, if you're in this situation, you can do this and that and this, and maybe that initial kind of launch video, the one that was like a big long commercial with the song playing, where you see all of these different scenes, where the one that sticks out in my mind is there's the woman playing, I think it was Super Mario Odyssey. And she's playing it at home on the controller on a TV. And she looks out the window and her friends are having a party on the rooftop, the building next door or whatever. And she's like, oh, I want to go hang out with my friends. So she gets up and she grabs the console out of the dock and takes it over there, and they keep playing video games. Is something like that going to happen in real life? Maybe, but not very frequently. That feels artificial. It feels contrived. And I think maybe something like that kind of promo material, those commercials or whatever, maybe that's what fueled a lot of that whole concern about whether the concept would even work. Because all anyone saw were these artificial scenarios and realize, what, none of this is really going to happen in real life. A few of those will, like playing on the plane maybe, or playing in the back of the car. But, the whole, I'm going to seamlessly pick it up and go hang out at the party, or I'm going to go, shoot hoops under the freeway. And then when we're not shooting hoops for real, we're going to get a bunch of Switches in land mode and we're going to, play video games on them right afterwards. I think that put people off. So, it took time, I think, for people to actually see maybe the reviews and potentially, just realize the real life scenarios in how this console would get used. And it's probably a lot simpler than that initial video makes out to be. It's probably just you've either got it in the dock and you're playing it at home, or, you throw it in your bag and you're on a trip and you're, sitting on a plane and playing it, or, maybe you're an adult and you travel for business and you're playing it in your hotel room, or you're a kid and you're hanging out in the back seat of the car on a road trip and you're playing it there, or something like that, more kind of traditional portable use cases. But in any event, it really seems like the concept works, because I do hear from people who use it in both scenarios, and I use it in both scenarios, and I really like it for that. I can have the Switch in the dock downstairs on the big TV and, in the living room and play games there. But if somebody else wants to watch TV, or maybe I just want to, get a quick couple of minutes in here hanging out in the home office and, sit on the couch back there, well, the thing works great portable too. So I think it was quite a gamble and a bit of a bet on Nintendo's part, but ultimately it worked, I think. I think the whole concept worked. And it just took a bit of time for people to figure it out. It seems like Nintendo is taking this a lot more seriously than they did NES Classic. NES Classic, who the hell knows what's going on with that anymore? I mean, it sounds like shipments are slowly still trickling out to stores, but at this point, the console is 4 months old? I'm shooting early April 2017. The console's 4 months old. You should be able to go into a store and pick it up off of a shelf right now. They should be in stock everywhere because they're so cheap and simple and easy to make. There's no excuse for Nintendo with NES Classic anymore. But as much as it seems like Nintendo has screwed that up, they do seem to be taking Switch much more seriously, probably because in some ways the future of the company depends on it. I will go on the record and say that I do believe 3DS is going to be dead sooner rather than later. I think it'll fade out probably towards the end of 2017 or early 2018. It's still hard to find at this time for consoles. I rarely see consoles available in stores anymore. If there is, it's maybe just one or two of them. And more often than not, what I see on the store shelves are 2DSs and not 3DSs. So maybe Nintendo's already starting to head that direction, even though they haven't said anything about it yet. But it certainly seems to be full steam ahead with Switch over at Nintendo. They're ramping up production. People still want to buy it. It still sells right away when they do come into stock. But the really reassuring thing is that they're coming back into stock fairly frequently. And with any luck, they'll be fairly regularly available later on in the year. Some people have said it's going to be like another Nintendo Wii kind of situation where it'll be hard to find for years. I don't think that's going to do Nintendo any good. I think they really need to keep, stock available for people to buy, even though that doesn't seem to be the way the company wants to operate, which is curious. And I don't know enough about business and marketing to be able to, intelligently speak about that. It'd be a great podcast topic, and maybe I go find some business and marketing types to pick their brains and figure out, what's actually going on. But I think it's really just a simple combination of Zelda and pent-up demand for something other than Wii U, and the simple fact that it works and it resonates with people. People are used to mobile gaming now. They want to take gaming with them on the go. We've become a portable society. It's the reason why laptops have greatly outsold desktop computers for many years running now. And Switch just speaks to people. And whether that was necessarily by design or by accident on Nintendo's part, probably a little bit of both. But in any event, I'm very satisfied and happy that not that I was right, but that my greatest fears didn't come to fruition. I am happy that I kind of called it, that I was right. Granted, a lot of other people called it too, and that Switch wouldn't be a failure and that it would actually work out really well. But I'm more than anything happy that it didn't end badly for the Switch, because I do think it's a really fun console and it has quite a lot of road ahead of it. There are many places that it can go. And like I said at the end of my Switch review, you know what? It's going to be a fun ride. So at this point, I'm curious as to your thoughts. If you've picked up a Switch, why did you buy one? Why does it appeal to you? And has it lived up to your expectations? If you haven't bought one, I'm also curious as to why. Do you just hate Nintendo? Has it been because you haven't been able to find one? Or is there something about the way the Switch works that really just doesn't appeal to you? So be sure to shout out your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.